We've got Brian in Las Vegas, one of probably my second favorite town. You're on with Matt and Don.
Yes. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think I heard Don say he hates Las Vegas.
You did. Go ahead, Brian.
I like it because all the magic's there.
Pleased to be here. I just want to be real quick. I just wanted to put out 4 points that everybody could think about.
Okay.
The first point I wanted to put out is minds only come from other minds. The second point I wanted to put out is pumps.
I'm not sure I even understand that.
Anytime there's an existence of a mind, it only comes from another life force or mind. It never comes through non-biological process.
Well,
I would agree that we're aware of no minds that have not come through a biological process.
But
except for
we're working very hard on AI, which is going to be potentially a silicon version of it, right?
Which is not a biological process,
right?
But AI is also won't be self-aware though. It won't feel, won't have.
How do you know that?
We don't know.
I don't know how you could just assert that because I don't know what the answer is. I don't see any reason why.
That's the truth. AI is like, it'll be like a computer, but it's not going to be self-aware.
How do you know that?
Be chemical reaction.
How do you know that?
Because it's just matter without a soul. AI.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Now we're there.
We've gone off the rails.
Hang on.
Time to reel you back in here.
We don't believe there's a soul.
Okay.
And I have a mind, and I don't see anything that is contingent upon a soul or any demonstration of a soul. So you've entered a new word into the conversation in order to undergird your assertion that AI won't be self-aware. But that is assuming
my next point.
That is assuming facts not in evidence. So it just becomes an assertion.
Okay.
Okay, so we have some issues with your first one. What's your second one?
My second one is pumps, such as like a fuel pump, oil pump. Pumps only come from a designer. So anytime there's a pump, it only comes by design.
That's not true.
By purpose.
That's just not true. You could look at my heart as a pump, and there's no evidence that it was designed at all.
And I was getting to that. I was getting to that. Now, the pump has a purpose. The heart has a purpose.
Does it?
We never see. Yes.
No.
Blood through your body.
No. Stop. You are describing what it does. Purpose.
Yes, that's the purpose.
No, stop. You are describing what it does. Purpose is, oh my God.
I love it.
Purpose is different. So if I take a hammer.
Purpose and function are different.
If I take a hammer, which was designed for the purpose of hammering nails, and I use it to club a baby seal, am I using it for its purpose? No. But it's still a function. So in order to demonstrate that there is function with purpose, you have to actually demonstrate that. You don't just get to assert, just like you say there can't be self-awareness without a soul. Now you're saying there can't be function without a purpose. And that's simply not true. What's the purpose? Some things have multi-purposes, things that we invent and create, but what's the purpose of a tree? There's no evidence that there was an intent to put a plant down that converts carbon dioxide to oxygen. That's what it does. That is one of many things that a tree does, but you have no evidence that this was an intended purpose of a tree.
Now I want to go back on that hammer because the hammer only operates through somebody making an intent with it. Now, if it's built for nails and hammers and somebody says, I'm going to club a baby, that's a choice. The heart doesn't have a choice. It just simply has a purpose. That's totally different.
I understand. That's why I went to the tree example. I picked two to put a button on this to show why you can't just assume an intentional purpose.
And pumps only come from minds and another life force.
Okay.
It's like a heart.
Okay, you're 0 for 2 so far.
The fact that a pump, the fact that something that can be described as a pump only comes from an intentional purpose of a mind, or natural processes, right?
There's no pump that comes from a non-biological process.
No, I didn't say non-biological. I said fucking natural.
But the only time you could get biology is with life, and life comes through about apart from just simply non-biological process.
You have no idea how life came about.
Yes, it came by a life force, another life force.
You don't know that. How can you demonstrate that?
What's a life force?
We see that in observable evidence.
No, this is
the natural world all the time.
No. This is a mistake. This is a fallacy. The fact that stop. The fact that we observe Jesus, I swear, just fucking stop for a second. This is easy.
Go ahead.
The fact that we have observed something, let's say 1,000 times, where A always leads. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. We observe something millions of
If you would shut up and let me finish, because here's the thing. Here's the thing with the audio. The second you say something, and with the history of the callers, see, perfect. This is the perfect example. I'm going to put you on hold. I will take you off hold in a second. Let's assume that for 15 years, every time I'm in mid-sentence and I hear a sound come through my earbuds, it's been somebody desperate to interrupt me to continue down their path. It's reasonable for me to assume that that's what you're doing, even if all you wanted to do was just agree with me. But the fact that I have that bulk of experience of A always leads to B doesn't mean that A always leads to B or that B is always the result of A. It could be the case that you were simply saying, I agree, continue. So it's a mistake for me to assume that because I've seen a particular pattern, that is necessarily required. You could look at it as the black swan fallacy. If every swan you've ever seen is white, you might be tempted to say there are no black swans, and you would be wrong. And so if every pump you've ever seen comes about by biological processes or by the intent of a mind, you could reasonably get to that point that that's what happens, but you would be wrong. You would be fallacious. You cannot.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily. It's a fucking fallacy.
We see these observations a billion, zillion times a day all over the world, and there's not another alternative.
You know what we've never seen? You know what we've never seen?
What?
A god or a god doing anything.
Or a life force or a soul.
Who says you have to see him? Who says you have to see him? His word is unseen.
I have no demonstration that he has any word. You are once again assuming facts, not in evidence. That's my video for this week, is assuming facts, not in evidence.
He spoke into your heart. Your heart is...
How do you know that? Prove it. Prove it.
Because it's a pump. Because it's a
Prove
pump.
it.
No pumps come
That's a fallacy.
How can you know God in your heart if it's made for pumping?
That's a fallacy. It's a logical fallacy. This is an undeniable... What'd you say?
How can you know God in your heart if it's made for pumping?
And laugh. He spoke of the spiritual. Right now, I'm talking about the physical pump. No pumps come through... pumps only come through design.
Prove it.
We see it every day.
No. We've seen that pumps come from design, not pumps only come from design. That is the assertion that is a fallacy on your part. Fucking prove it.
What do you want me to do backflips or something?
I don't know. I'm not the one here. I'm not the one calling in to make a statement that I can't fucking defend.
But I defend it. Go out and see every heart. Every pump, it only came from a designer. You can't get around that.
Go ahead. Go around. Look, every swan you see is white. You can't get around that until you do.
We're not talking about swans. We're not talking about swans.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Every pump.
Yes, we are.
Pump in a car.
All right, I'm talking about swans. You're not talking about shit. If every swan I've ever seen is white, that doesn't mean that all swans are white. If every pump I've ever seen comes about through a biological process, that doesn't mean that every pump comes through biological process. If every pump that I'm interact with is been the result of a mind, that doesn't mean that there isn't something that also is a pump that is not the result of a mind. But at the end of the day, when you look at the function of the physical body, there are things we know and things we don't know. But you know what we definitely don't know? We have zero evidence that any supernatural being or event has ever interceded and affected anything in the history of humanity. That is an inference that you are making based on a fallacious set of reasoning. That's it. It's undeniable. The fallacy is a fallacy. That doesn't mean you're wrong. Here's the important thing people need to get about fallacies. If I put together a logical argument in structure where I've got a syllogism, two premises, one conclusion, as long as the structure's valid and I put true premises in, the conclusion must be true. But if either the premise is not true or the structure is such that it is invalid, I have no idea whether the conclusion is true or not. So if you say all pumps have to come from a mind, and your reasoning is every pump I've ever seen comes from a mind, that's a fallacy. It's like saying all swans are white because all I've ever seen is white swans. And that's going to be true right up until you go to Australia, where there are black swans, and perhaps other places now too, like a zoo. But this is the fallacy. What it means is you're not wrong. It means that your reasoning is flawed. Because let's say, instead of all swans are white, you said all humans are mortal. Because every human we've ever seen is mortal. That's a reasonable inference. It's not based on every human we've ever seen is mortal, because that's simply not true. Don's not dead and I'm not dead, so we don't know if we're mortal yet. We can infer reasonably that we're mortal for good reasons. But what if we found somebody or something like a tardigrade that may or may not be mortal? Maybe there's a biological thing that has never died. All you can do is get to the point where you say, it seems to be a reasonable inference that Don and I are going to die because every human being's died. We certainly can't be absolutely certain about that. But what it means is Jesus didn't come back from the dead. Because, you know, all humans are mortal, right? Oh, well, Jesus wasn't human. Well, prove it. Well, it says so in the book. Okay. We can do this all. Not only can we do this all day.
Is he alive or is he dead? I'm not quite
years.
sure.
He's like Schrodinger's God.
Schrodinger's God.